Good morning, everyone. We'll give it just a brief moment for participants to connect before we begin. But while we're getting started here, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You can include your name, your role, your institution, and your country so that we can get to know who our audience is today and that you'll have an opportunity to connect with each other as well. We want this to be an interactive event, even though it is a virtual forum. So please feel free to utilize the chat feature. That will be the main way we'll be able to communicate with each other. So please feel free getting comfortable with that, and you could use that to introduce yourself. So an important note about this forum is that it's being simultaneously interpreted into Spanish and English. You could change the default setting in WebEx. You should be able to see that in the bottom left-hand corner. Speakers and audience members are welcome to deliver their intervention and question in either of the two languages. So with that, we can get started. My name is Alexis Athens. I'm an associate statistician at the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, and it's my pleasure to serve as moderator for this first session of the 5th Global Expert Forum for producers and users of disaster-related statistics. To open the forum, I am pleased to introduce Mr. Rolando Ocampo, Director of the Statistics Division at ECLAC, to deliver the welcoming message. Mr. Ocampo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alexis. Good day to all of you here, friends and colleagues from all the statistical offices and disaster managers agencies, colleagues from the international organizations, and colleagues from the United Nations system. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 5th Global Expert Forum of Producers and Users of Disaster-Related Statistics. We are especially proud that for this first time, this forum is hosted by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. The forum will provide a global space for producers and users of disaster statistics to exchange knowledge and share experiences. It also shows our shared commitment to stronger data and evidence-based policies, which are essential for building resilient societies. Disaster-related statistics could across many areas and require allocation and require collaboration. This is clear with our diverse audience today, which include national statistical offices, disaster management agencies, environmental ministries, and many other institutions. A major step is now underway, the development of the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework. This is the first common framework for disaster-related statistics and will be presented for adoption at the United Nations Statistical Commission next year in March. Here in this forum, we will have the opportunity to learn more about, engage with, and shape this proposed global statistical framework. For our region, Latin America and the Caribbean, this work is essential and urgent. Our region is among the most exposed to disasters and climate change. Also, we produce less than 7% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and we suffer more from their impacts. This reality makes better disaster statistics essential. With better data, countries can design a stronger policy, protect vulnerable communities, and prepare for a resilient future. In ECLAC, we have long supported disaster statistics in the region. We work to strengthen institutions, develop methodologies, and produce key indicators on environment, climate change, and disasters. We also link statistics with special information, which is vital for disaster risk reduction. In ECLAC, we place strong value on partnerships too. We work with other UN entities, the regional commissions, national statistical offices, civil protection agencies, and regional organizations. Our goal is to bring the knowledge and experience of Latin America and the Caribbean into the global effort to improve disaster statistics. Over the next 3 days, we will gain a deeper understanding of the global disaster-related statistics framework and its implementation. Colleagues, I would like to close my words by thanking you once again for your commitment and time. I also congratulate the Interagency and Expert Group on Disaster-Related Statistics for their excellent work on the draft of the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework. And I want to thank our partners in organizing this forum: the United Nations Statistics Division, UNSG, the United Nations Office of Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR, the Regional Commission, in the UK Health Security Agency. And of course, I want to thank my own team here at ECLAC, Georgina, Alberto, Alexis, for their dedication, and Paula for their dedication and support. I really wish you a very productive meeting and rich discussions. And together, let us continue building resilience through the shared knowledge. And in this regard, I want to thank you, all of you, and I want to send you my regards from the World Statistics Congress here in The Hague, where we are participating in different topics of these issues. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful journey.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ocampo, for your opening remarks and for reminding us of the importance of this work and why we're all gathered here today. It is now my pleasure to invite Ms. Rike Monk-Hansen, Chief of the Economic and Environment Statistics Section at ESCAP and co-chair of the Interagency Expert Group on Disaster-Related Statistics. She will present the forum's objectives and provide a brief overview of the agenda for these next 3 days. Ms. Hansen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Alexis, and a very warm welcome also from me to this year's Expert Forum for Producers and Users of Disaster-Related Statistics. As Rolando mentioned, this is the 5th iteration of the Expert Forum, and the forum is a key recurring activity of the Interagency and Expert Group on Disaster-Related Statistics, which I'm very proud to co-chair together with Kansa Ahmed of the UK Health Security Agency and Animesh Kumar of UNDRR. Rolando mentioned already that this year is a special year because the main product of the IAEG-DRS, namely a global statistical framework, is right now going through global consultations. And the expectation is that this framework, the first of its kind, is to be considered and endorsed by the Statistical Commission early next year. This year is also special because with the 5th iteration of the forum, it means that all 5 regions of the United Nations have by now hosted the forum. So this is indeed an excellent example of global collaboration and coordination around a topic which is so very urgent and very important, as was outlined excellently by Mr. Ocampo just in his opening remarks. Now, the special features of this year's forum does very much reflect the state of affairs in terms of this proposed global statistical framework for disaster-related statistics. And you will see that in the next couple of slides when I just go through the forum goals and just key features of the sessions that we have organized for the coming days. Now, the forum goals are threefold. The first one is very much a repeat goal, which we have seen for several years in a row. And the reason for that is that the main reason for having these global forums is to exchange knowledge and experiences between producers and users of disaster-related statistics, and of course to share experiences from countries from across the world. We are moving in a topic of statistics where developments are fast and innovations are needed, and luckily also very much happening. So there is constantly new ideas to share, new experiences to share, as we are all moving forward with this really important development topic. The second goal of this year's forum focuses on the global disaster-related statistics framework. The aim here is for all of you listening in to be more aware of this framework, to know of the opportunities to engage in the consultation that's going on at the moment, but certainly also continue to engage once we move beyond the initial framework, to expand it, to implement it, etc. Finally, the goal of these 3 days forum is to highlight emerging areas. And this is to be able to together carve the way forward to figure out where do we go from here, what makes sense to do together, where is it that we can maybe complement each other the best possible ways, given that there are so many different angles and entry points to statistics and data related to disasters. Next slide, please, Alexis. Thank you. So with those 3 goals, this is the very high-level agenda that we've put together. We have 3 days and we have 6 sessions. The sessions are relatively short, given that we are moving fully virtual mode this year. And we all know that it is a bit more challenging to continue to engage once we are all looking at our respective screens and not benefiting from being in the same room. But do make sure that you use all the features of WebEx to engage, raise your hands, put things in the chat, be disruptive. It's the more the better. The first session, which we will begin with just after I finish speaking, is to outline some of the fundamentals of this international statistical framework that's under development. We will present some main features, but also hear of examples with implementation of other statistical frameworks, the challenges, the opportunities these frameworks present. The second session is a bit more of a deep dive into the contents of the proposed disaster-related statistics framework. We will focus in particular on the concepts upon which that framework is built and the underpinning classifications that we are proposing to use. Tomorrow, we'll have 2 sessions. The first one will zoom in and focus on impact statistics, probably the most developed part of disaster statistics. This is where the longest tradition is there, but it certainly doesn't mean that there are no challenges, and that will be an opportunity to hear about this. We then move into disaster risk reduction, particularly measurement issues. So this will be an opportunity to hear about measuring exposures, vulnerabilities, coping capacities, etc. The final day, there is in the first session is focusing on data gaps and innovative approaches. This is where we move beyond sort of the conceptual part and start looking at the actual data that can be generated and needs to be processed for ensuring that quality is there for all of those data to actually be useful. Finally, the last session is a reflection and summary session where we very much hope that we will end up with some very concrete actions that we can all pick up and work together on going forward. So this is what we've outlined, and I very much hope that this will be something where all of you can see yourself benefit from one or more of the sessions. Again, the sessions are only as good as you make them, so please do stay active. And with that, I want also from my end, from the co-chairs of the IAEG and from ESCAP, to thank all our partners in putting this forum together. A very special thanks to ECLAC and the team there for hosting us and pulling everything together in an excellent fashion for this year's forum. So with that, thank you very much, and back to you, Alexis.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hansen, for setting out the goals and giving us a clear roadmap of what to expect for these next few days. So next, as moderator, I'll briefly present the objectives and the guiding questions for session number 1. Give me 1 second here to get my screen going. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my slides okay. So here we are in session number 1, which is laying the groundwork for an international framework.
Sorry, we cannot see your slides.
Oh no, okay. Let's troubleshoot this here. Okay, does this look okay?
Perfect.
Okay, great. I'd love to hear that the slides are working. Okay, going back 1 slide here, we're at laying the groundwork for an international framework. Okay, so the main objective of this first session is to introduce the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework, or G-DRSF. The forum is loosely structured around the different chapters of the G-DRSF. You'll be hearing from both the authors as well as subject matter experts weighing in on technical components of the framework. I also have plenty of country experiences and panel discussions reacting to the G-DRSF content and reflecting on their own thematic experiences. So this first session will focus on the need for the G-DRSF and how countries can utilize the statistical framework. Now for this first session, the key questions are, what is the G-DRSF and why is it needed? How can the G-DRSF be adapted to the specific needs and capacities of countries? And how can countries leverage the international framework to improve disaster-related statistics? Our keynote presentation for this session will introduce the G-DRSF, its background, motivation, and overall structure. This corresponds to Chapter 1 of the draft G-DRSF, and it will be jointly presented by Tirapong Prophet-Jonaporn, statistician at ESCAP, and Juan Che, statistician at UNDRR. After their presentation, we'll have about 5 minutes for questions and answers. We recommend using the chat function to post your questions at any time during the presentation, and we'll do our best to collect them and to respond. Time allows, we'll also invite a few participants to take the floor and expand upon their points. Following the keynote, we'll move into our panel discussion on country experiences with statistical framework implementation. We have Michael Nagy, statistician at ECE, moderating our panel today. And on the panel, we have Angela Ferruzza coming from the Italian National Institute of Statistics, Armando Salazar coming from Instituto Nacional de Estadística y Censos from Ecuador. We have Daniel Clark, consultant and contributing author to the G-DRSF, who's coming from ESCAP. And we have Hakan Yazıcıoğlu coming from the Turkish Statistical Institute. Finally, following the panel, we'll close the segment with a short interactive poll, inviting you to reflect on your own country's experiences with implementing statistical frameworks and the potential role for the G-DRSF. Now, let us begin with our first substantive presentation. Okay, so to move into the presentation, I am pleased to introduce Tirapong Prophet Jonaporn, statistician at SCAP, and Juan Che, statistician at UNDRR. Again, we encourage you to send any questions in the chat throughout the presentation. Tirapong and Juan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alexis. I just want to double check, are you presenting the slides or should I do it from my end?
If you have it up on your screen, that might be easier.
Okay. Let me try to present my screen. Can I confirm that everyone can see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. How about now?
That looks great.
Okay, great. Thank you, session chair. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first presentation of the Global Expert Forum. My name is Xuan Che. I'm a statistician in UNDRR, and together with me, we have Mr. Tirapong for UNSCAP. He is based in Bangkok, and it's very late for Bangkok time. So, in the interest of time and coordination, I will deliver the presentation first, and Tirapong will be also here to answer any questions or add to what I'm going to present next. So
sorry, Shun, we cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Your screen is showing.
Okay. So should I proceed? Okay. Thank you. So just a quick intro on the history of development. Hello? Yes. Please, my audio go on and off?
Yeah, you're back again, Juan. Your audio keeps cutting out for some reason.
Okay. Apologize. 'Cause
Maybe
I
you should
was-
turn off your microphone, I'll say your video.
Okay, let me try. Can you hear me now? Should I try it again?
Yes, but you're not sharing.
Okay, I'm turning off my video and let me try again. Hello? Is it better now? Should I?
Yes, we can
It's
still
like
hear
a-
you.
Okay, thank you. Let me try to present this slide. Okay. So just
Juan, I think we lost you again.
I don't know why there's some technical difficulty. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear
Yes,
you
we
now,
can listen to you.
sure.
Okay.
May I suggest if ECLAC can share the screen for sure, that might
I
be
agree.
better.
Yes, let's
Yeah.
try this.
Maybe, yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
Hopefully you can see my presentation and hear me okay.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, sorry.
Juan, we lost you again.
Yeah, maybe this has to do with the interpretation. I think Joan needs to put the settings floor language. I think this is a glitch in WebEx.
That's a good idea.
Joan, set the your chosen language to original. This could be the problem, the cause of the problem. Because it always stops when you start presenting. I think this is when interpretation starts.
My interpretation language is floor language. I selected that. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Can we go to the next slides, please? Thank you. So just to quickly update and catching up on the time, the G-DRS.
We lost you again, Juan.
Okay, that's I checked it. That's a WebEx problem, an interpretation problem. When you are in original language, we can hear him. When you switch to one of the audio channels of the interpreted channels, it doesn't work. So maybe he can continue and everybody listens to floor. In Spanish, we can hear it, but not in English.
Hello? Should I change to English or keep it original audio floor?
I guess
Hello?
you could try keeping it original and we could see if that works for everyone. Maybe if everyone switches to the original
Yeah.
language, we should all be able to. Yeah.
So I'm Hello. Maybe we should move to the next presentation when we sort out this issue from my side.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Apologies, Juan. I'm so sorry that we're having these technical issues. So I'm I apologize that you weren't able to deliver that presentation. So hopefully we'll be able to work out these issues and have this be a little smoother. But in the meantime, we could switch over to the panel discussion, which is the next component of the forum here. So to switch over to the panel, I will now turn it over to Michael Nagy, statistician at the Economic Commission for Europe, and he will introduce our speakers and begin the discussions. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Chair, and please let me know if there is also an audio problem or if you can hear me continuously. Yeah, thank you very much. So this panel is now based on the assumption that we had an introduction into the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework, but I think it's very well known already, and we hope that at the end of this we can then get a little bit more details. So the basic idea of this panel discussion is to learn from or to understand that global statistical framework should be seen as valuable tools, not additional burdens for producers of statistics. By defining measurement scopes, clarifying concepts, and guiding implementation, frameworks strengthen statistical systems, improve data quality, and promote international comparability. And the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework that we hope to be endorsed at the UN Statistical Commission in March follows exactly these goals. So rather than adding reporting requirements or complexity, it offers a coherent structure and common language to make existing efforts in disaster-related statistics more efficient and useful. So the idea is to turn data into actionable insights for risk reduction and resilience building. And we have now 4 panelists. I see 3 of them online. They will discuss country experiences in implementing similar frameworks in areas such as geospatial, environmental, and climate statistics, or other related areas, and draw lessons, good practices, and expectations to guide the effective development and use of the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework. So the panelists are Angela Ferruzza. So I hope she can connect or can turn on also her video. Angela is from the Italian National Statistical Institute of Statistics. She's an expert on SDGs, climate change, measuring hazardous events and disasters, environmental economic statistics, and is now kind of semi-retired and works as a consultant to the ISTAT president. Then we have Armando Salazar, who I don't see online now. Who is the Director of Environmental and Agricultural Statistics at the National Institute of Statistics and Census in Ecuador, with 15 years of experience, a specialist in greenhouse gas inventories, agricultural indicators, and data production for environment, climate change, and hazardous statistics. Then Daniel Clark. He is a consultant and contributing author to the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework, working also on behalf of ESCAP. He has about 2 decades of experience working as statistician, research and analyst, and economist for the United Nations and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. And currently he is an independent consultant and helped to develop and review the draft Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework. And last but not least, so also if you can make yourself visible, Hakan Yatsicioglu, who is head of the Data Dissemination and Communication Department at Turkstat, the Turkish National Statistical Office, with nearly 18 years of experience in statistics and having served at both at the regional office and the headquarters of the Turkish Statistical Institute. His work has focused primarily on environmental statistics, the system of environmental economic accounting, and the SDGs. And he has led key initiatives, including the establishment of Turkey's SDG web portal, and has also contributed to international expert groups under ECE and OECD. He also spent 2 years at ESCAP, actively engaging in work on disaster-related statistics, and is currently serving as the head of the Data Dissemination and Communication Department at Turkstat.
As soon as you started presenting, the audio used to go off.
Colleagues, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so let me start with the panel discussion. And the first question is not looking directly at the global disaster and statistics framework, but your experience with similar frameworks. So the question is to the three colleagues representing NSOs, meaning Angela, Hakan, and Armando. And the question is, when your country has implemented statistical frameworks in areas such as geospatial, environment, or climate change, what were some of the most valuable outcomes? So what was really considered as helpful from these frameworks? Maybe I can start with you, Angela, since you have your video on.
Yes,
Maybe you can try to respond in 3 minutes.
I try to put my video on, but I don't know why it doesn't work.
We
So,
can see you.
okay, perfect. I don't see me. That's the point. Okay, perfect. I'm here. Thank you very much to everybody for the work that all of you do, of course, on this thematic, because global disaster-related statistics it has been very, very important for the developing in ISTAT, the National Statistical Institute, but also the National Statistical System of the statistics related to disaster and climate change. I'd like to mention, first of all, two outcomes that were connected with the disaster-related framework. The first one is the statistical report on climate change and hazardous events that we prepared during these years, and the last was in 2024. We used the international framework, of course, as a point of reference, and it was very useful to prepare this statistical report that was important to try to increase awareness among citizens and among stakeholders. And we mentioned the statistical frameworks also inside the report in the allegate. And when it happens in October, and it was unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know which word I can use, very close to flood that was in Emilia-Romagna. And there was a lot of attention on this from the press and all the institutions. And the other very important outcome that was related to the disasters, the global disaster-related statistical framework, was the register of place that was very, very important, and it is very important inside the National Statistical ISTAT. And that is built, it is a register where we have information related to the place, the different place, and it integrates different information related to the administrative territorial units, the small areas, more than 750,000 geocoded areas, addresses and buildings and basic property units. And this kind of register was, of course, and it is, of course, very, very important to disseminate information and to prepare a kind of tools related to the disaster events and climate change. I think that these were very important, and these were very connected to the global framework. I think I will stop now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Angela. And it's very good to hear that frameworks or the work on frameworks is considered as something useful in your national work. But I also have to say that Angela has been the chair of our EC task force on measuring hazardous events and disasters for several years. And we also have learned a lot from the Italian, but also from other countries' experience in this work that we use as good case examples, also for international work. Thank you very much, Angela. Let me turn over to Armando. Welcome, good to have you here. And the same question to you. Do you have any experience in your office from which we can learn in terms of implementing any statistical framework that is related to environment or climate change, or maybe even to disaster, that you would consider as beneficial? And maybe you have an example for us. Over to you, Armando.
Hello to everybody. Thanks for the invitation. Okay, for us, it has been essential to involve thematic users such as the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Secretariat of Hazards and Disasters. This allowed to establish synergy in the generation of the data. Annual meetings were held to assess the information gaps and understand the specific information needs. Furthermore, working together to generate climate change and hazards indicators has yielded significant results and strengthening the inter-institutional relationships. Understanding that the robust statistical systems only does exist with the active participation of the various decision makers, agencies, and institutions. It is important to mention that when we started around 15 years ago, we started the implementation of the for environmental and the climate change framework has been definitely been a major challenge for our institution and the country. We started environmental statistics using the MEDEA, but the most important results were the interinstitutional coordination to identify the variables or the indicators necessary for our country. The ongoing construction process with the other institutions that generate remote sensing data and administrative records in Ecuador, environmental data such as for rainfall and air quality are collected by other institutions. So to incorporate the incorporation them into our data repositories, it was possible that to integrate them with the other sources, data sources, and expand the impact analysis on environmental and hazards issues. This is what can I say regarding the question.
Thank you very much. So from you, I hear that the example of environment statistics, for example, that it helped to have also a kind of stakeholder process, identifying data sources, setting priorities also in terms of indicators, what you mentioned, and also integration of information sourced from different partners. Yeah. So
that's correct.
Yeah. You also mentioned the term challenge in the beginning with the new frameworks, but at the end of the day, I understood there were some benefits for the country by giving you some practical guidance. I hope that this summarizes this intervention in a good way. Thank you very much. Hakan, over to you with your experience working in a national statistical office, but also with your experience working on the international level. Let me ask you the same question. So what is with any kind of global or regional frameworks that you supported to implement in your country, what were some of the most valuable outcomes of this work, technically, in terms of substance or in terms of cooperation? So maybe you have an example for us, Hakan.
Thank you, Michael. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear and we can see you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it's a real pleasure to be here today and join this important discussion on behalf of Turkish Statistical Institute. Regarding your question, I can say that as part of the Turkey's European Union accession process, we have adopted several EU frameworks, including environmental, economic, and geospatial. Turkey has been developing environmental statistics since 1990s and producing SEA accounts since 2009 regarding the EU regulation. So this strong foundation has allowed us to utilize environmental data into policy making. For instance, data from material flow accounts, guided actions to reduce domestic material consumption and enhance resource efficiency in the 11th development plan. Greenhouse gas emission data prepared according to the IPCC guidelines helped shape Turkey's nationally determined contributions, and waste statistics played a key role in designing the zero waste policy and measuring the circular economy. At the same time, implementing geospatial frameworks has significantly enhanced our capacity to integrate data from multiple sources and generate information that was previously out of reach. I would like to explain this with a clear example of integrated statistics for integrated analysis. Following the European Union's inspired directive of 2007, which aims to create a common spatial data infrastructure across Europe, Turkey launched the Spatial Address Registration System, or known as MAX, in 2011. The goal here was simple, to link the address data with geographical coordinates and make it usable across different systems. The project was completed in 2019, and since then we have integrated population, demographic, and infrastructure data. Today, we can see how many people live in a building, their age, education, and employment status, and also how far that building is from schools and hospitals. This information was used in the response activities for the devastating earthquakes that hit southern side of Turkey in 2023. Turkstat was able to estimate how many people were affected and to where they moved after the earthquakes by also integrating several databases, including transportation data, health services data, mobile phone data, credit cards usage data, evacuation and aid support data, and accommodation data. And moreover, this year in July, Turkstat launched the agricultural census. To define the census frame, we used parcel-based information from the spatial address registration system. This data was then combined with 7 other databases, including land cover and land use information. And using remote sensing, we were able to identify which parcels are actually used for agriculture. Now, these identified parcels form the backbone of the ongoing agricultural census, helping us collect data more accurately, efficiently, and with a stronger spatial perspective than ever before. Thank you.
Thank you, Hakan. So it's good again to hear a lot about benefits. So what I heard from you in addition, and there were some things, of course, duplicate. You were also talking about identifying data sources, integration of information. But what was also interesting in your talk was like informing new policy areas. So you mentioned the circular economy, but you also talked a lot about, the informing disaster risk management, also from identifying vulnerability and exposure, but also the importance of integrating information, for example, on buildings and households, for example, for impact statistics. I mean, Turkey is unfortunately very disaster prone. So this is information that is really needed and helps to save lives if used in a proper way. So thank you very much for this, Hakan. So after talking about the benefits of having frameworks such as the global disaster-related statistics frameworks, of course we cannot ignore that there might be also some challenges related to it. But let's talk first about what has worked particularly well in your country. So when you apply statistical frameworks, what organizational, technical, or methodological practices have worked particularly well in your country, and where have you seen the greatest challenges in implementing new frameworks? So maybe you can have a bit of balanced view on it. What are the things that worked well and what are the things that are most challenging one? Because this will also help us when we talk later about the global disaster-related statistical frameworks to think about how to operationalize this in the best way in countries that we have, based on experience with other frameworks, the best way in making it work. Maybe this time I start with Armando, if this is okay for you, and then I would ask Hakan and then Angela. So Armando, maybe you want to start.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, the good practice that we can realize now is to assess every year or in periods of 2 or 3 years to assess the gap in the data generation. So it's important to continually go to reducing the data gaps. So it's important to keep the good relationship with the statistical and specific users to identify what are their priorities to implement, because it's not possible to take or to capture all the data related or the data that they need. So it's important to prioritize the variables and the period and the time, and to define all the microdata that could help to reduce the data gaps. This is important for us, and this is what we are applying every year. And the special users to environmental and hazardous users are very involved with this activity, so they can use the data in every year, and then they can make decisions based on the data results.
Thank you very much. So you're talking about also like stakeholder platforms that can refer to the frameworks, and then you have a dialogue about data gaps. That works well, I understand. Okay. I said Hakan, I think that the next one. Maybe what is your response to these questions? And what worked specifically well, or what has been working specifically well, and where do you see the greatest challenges in implementing international frameworks? Over to you, Hakan.
Thank you, Michael. Actually, I would say that Turkey is fortunate to have a strong organizational structure like the Statistical Council and Official Statistics Program, which supports the implementation of statistical framework and production of new statistics. The Statistical Council plays a strategic advisory role in the preparation, implementation, and development of the official statistics program, and it provides recommendations on identifying official statistics needs, detecting the problems encountered during the production process, and developing solutions. And the official statistics program, which is prepared by every 5 years, ensures the effective and efficient production of official statistics by preventing the duplication in data production, reducing respondent burden, and optimizing the use of public resources and strengthening a reliable data infrastructure. And within the scope of this program, it's clearly defined which data will be collected by which institution, using which methods, and at what period and when, and how it will be disseminated. So under the official statistics program, Turkey has gradually expanded its coverage of disaster-related statistics so far, while data on major transportation accidents, desertification statistics, and forest fires were included in earlier periods. Disaster occurrence statistics were also added in the third official statistics period program, which lasted during 2017 and 2021. The inclusion of hazardous events and disaster statistics in official statistics program identified which institution produces each data sets, the classifications used, the geographical coverage, and the frequency and timing of dissemination that ensures the coordinated and transparent approach to disaster statistics. With no doubt, this coverage will be improved by the implementation of G-DRSF in Turkey. And also I want to mention another advantage of implementing statistical frameworks like SIA is that we know that there are detailed budget records for both current expenditures and investments, as well as SNA data. This makes it much easier to produce environmental expenditure data for general government sector, especially, SCI is fully compatible with SNA. Similarly, I believe disaster risk reduction expenditure accounts follow the same SNA principles and guidelines. Hence, compiling these disaster risk reduction expenditure accounts is expected to be a straightforward process for Turkey. Of course, challenges remain, particularly in harmonizing definitions and classifications across different administrative sources, ensuring data quality, and fostering collaboration between institutions. However, the structures provided by the Statistical Council and the official statistics program helps us to overcome these challenges and maintain a strong and well-coordinated statistical system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hakan. Do I understand correctly when you talked about the challenges that remain, and I think everybody of us is aware of? You mentioned harmonizing definition, and of course, collaboration across institutions is always a challenge. But can I summarize this also in a way that you would say statistical frameworks on a regional or global level are something that kind of support this to make it easier because you have a common reference document? Is this, as you're nodding, is this?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I would like to, before I go to Angela with the same question, I just would like to mention there is a comment in the chat which is dedicated to Armando Salazar. Maybe you can give it a look, and maybe you can, if you have time, you can maybe reply in the orally in this panel, or maybe you can write the reply to Horst Kremers. Just wanted to draw attention to this comment there. Angela, over to you. So what works particularly well, and what are the major challenges when thinking of implementing any kind of statistical framework?
I think I want to share with you the fact that in the past I was also the head of the national statistical system related to environmental statistics, and it was very helpful along all the years when we do the meetings with all the other members of the national statistical systems related to environmental statistics and climate change and disaster, to mention these frameworks as reference point for everybody, I mean, for all the other agencies that are inside the national statistical system. And this was very important, again, considering the importance of integrating geospatial information to harmonize classification. What I want to tell is that the challenge was, of course, the production of spatial information able to respond to the net of detailed statistical data that integrate the different components and gives us the information related at a very detailed level. Because this detailed geography for the statistical units are important to integrate the information of social, economic data and also dirty data. I mean, it was very important consider this kind of frameworks to build an infrastructure that from administrative data, sometimes dirty data, became statistic data. It was a big challenge, a real big challenge, but we had the possibility to assign a unique identifier to each location area, and this this give us this allow all statistical data to be aggregated or disaggregated at different level, and to integrate not only the statistical information that we have in general, but also other kind of information. And this is very, very important in the case of climate change and hazardous events and disasters, because in this case, also with environmental statistics, we need to consider different kinds of data, not only data that comes directly from survey or register, because we are in a different kind of situation. And that this geographical statistical information help us to, so it was a challenge, and it is step-by-step situation. Of course, we have to increase in any case this kind of products, but it helps for the production of a tool set of ready statistical indicators, because, for example, we have this kind of tool set of indicators related to the 700,000 small areas, and these are ready. And we had also some information related to the population grid. And I want to mention this because these kinds of information, it was a real challenge to build this kind of information, because we had to consider different data from administrative records. But it was also important because we could use this kind of very small data in the case of floods, in the case of air pollution, for example, due to fireworks. And I can also tell you that this is very important to increase the cooperation and collaboration among other different statistical agency, also environmental agency or civil protection agency inside and outside the national statistical system. I mention this because I know that, for example, now our Italian environmental agency is using this very detailed data to produce indicators related to flood. And so, I mean, it is important to build, considering international framework, to consider it as pillar elements for the national statistical systems, and the products are very useful also to integrate information not only inside the National Statistical Institute, but the more important thing is probably outside the National Statistical Institute, considering all other elements, other stakeholders inside and outside the National Statistical Systems. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you very much, Angela. I think what we can take from your talk are many things, but what I liked is also like the reference for all partners that you mentioned, the frameworks, again, like what we heard from others as well, to have this reference document that kind of helps to speak a common language with other partners, other expert communities, and to overcome challenges which are there. Another element you brought was also what you called the dirty data. I think this can be understood as data that are produced outside of the statistical system for a good reason. They have their value in a certain context, but they're not official statistics, and frameworks can help to upgrade them to official statistics under certain conditions, or to help understand how can official statistics complement, or how can they complement official statistics, and how can they have to find the right place in disaster risk management, for example. So that was a very, very interesting contribution to this talk. Thank you very much, Angela. Yeah, so we have talked a lot about the benefits of frameworks in general and the challenges, or the ways how they can help to overcome the challenges. We would like now turn this last part of the panel more to the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework, which is not there yet, but which is out for global consultation. And my question now to all four panelists, also including Daniel, who haven't had a chance to talk, is how can the forthcoming Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework help address institutional and technical challenges and strengthen disaster-related statistics? How can we ensure that the global framework is practical, usable, and responsive to national priorities? Perhaps you have a practical example, a positive or a negative, from implementing another global or regional statistical framework. But if you can, maybe you would like to give some guidance on how can we make the global framework practical in the best way from experiences learned. And since Daniel didn't have a chance to talk yet, and we had the other speakers before, maybe I can start with you, Daniel. What are your thoughts regarding these questions? Over to you, Daniel. We cannot hear you.
Now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
You can hear me now. Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks very much. And thank you very much for the invitation. I appreciate this opportunity as someone who's worked a lot on this topic and helped with all of the work surrounding development of this framework during the last year or so. I really appreciate the opportunity. So I think we've heard all of the key sort of examples of benefits that a framework can have, and this has been a really interesting exchange so far. I think it's always useful to have this kind of exchange and learn from the different countries and learn from the different examples. But in order to really progress, we need a common framework. And I think where this particular document, the G-DRSF, can really help with all of these different potential benefits that we've heard about, whether in terms of the coordination, the efficiency, the integration of different data, all of these type of ways that the framework can help. It comes on. I would organize in terms of the conceptual and practical elements of this particular document. So the G-DRSF. So in terms of conceptual, this document interconnects the different components of disaster statistics, whether it's about measuring risk, the occurrences of disasters, their impacts, or measuring the DRR activities, these different elements. These are all interconnected, and they have interlinked variables. And to have a complete picture of each of these elements, you really need to be able to see these connections. So I think it's very important to get a full picture of the different elements of the component, and to allow for multiple uses of the same statistics, that we have this kind of framework that takes a systems approach and brings all those components together. And so I think that's a really critical element of this framework that we have and that we haven't had before. I think that a lot of national disaster management agencies already do something like this because they have a broad purview over disaster. But I think it's very important to have a written international document that we can all refer to that bring these different components together and show the relationships between them. And moving a bit to the more to the practical, it did mean that it was important to set some pragmatic boundaries and make some pragmatic choices with this framework. And I think, one of the biggest examples that many people may have noticed if you've reviewed the DRSF so far is a focus on the more direct causal impacts of disasters in the impacts field. And I think that's a pragmatic choice to sort of set the boundaries of statistics for which we can produce, or for the type of statistics that can be produced across countries, so across contexts and across different types of hazards. I think the need to do more in-depth post-disaster studies on longer term impacts of disasters, or what used to be called indirect impacts, which is a methodology that has been developed for a long time, particularly in this region and in Latin America, for example. That will continue to be important, but I think what the pragmatic choice that's made in this document is to focus on a sort of core set of statistics that can be measured with comparability across different types of hazards, and noting that each hazard, the context of each disaster is different. So we want to focus on those kind of statistics that cut across different types of hazards and different types of different contexts in different countries, which can be very different. And I think that's what this framework does. I think that another benefit that was mentioned in the previous talks about efficiency and timeliness, I think that's really, really important. I mean, it's crucial for disaster statistics. It's not hard to find examples of that. And also referring to the comment that was made in the chat here, which I think is important, the just-in-time or real-time, very high timeliness of statistics is crucial in this domain. And our users want to know very quickly about risk before a disaster or what happened after disaster. And I think responding to this kind of heavy timeliness or efficiency demands really benefits from having a framework and this reference, as Angela and some of the others point to, having a reference we can point to and say, well, we develop statistics. And I think this recommendation isn't in the document currently, but my proposal would be to once sort of established and put in place, we should be producing these statistics on a quarterly basis, probably, or even at least even better. Following the example that's done for some other highly complex areas of statistics, but for which a framework exists. Like, so for example, indicators like GDP, employment, these are very complicated concepts to measure, but the demand to have this information on a regular basis and as quickly as possible is very high. And so statistics offices are pressured to produce in many cases on a quarterly basis. And often additional information comes later in following quarters or throughout the year, and it's regular aspect of official statistics to do revisions. And I think this framework provides the reference to produce the early indicators, for example, on a quarterly basis of what's going on in different domains of disaster statistics, and then the reference to provide to the media or to provide to our users to say, this is the methodological standard we are applying to incorporate all other data sources as they become available, and therefore it may potentially revise the figures later on in terms of annual figures. So I think.
Sorry, are you at the end? Sorry, because we have.
Yeah, I could go on. So these are just some of my thoughts in terms of both the conceptual and the pragmatic ways that this document in particular. One last point. Thank you, Michael, and thank you for cutting me off there, because I have a lot to say on this topic. One last point, I think, it remains to be seen, but I think will come from the endorsement of this document at the global level at the Statistical Commission. I think that would be a huge boost to disaster statistics. We've seen that in other domains. So for other frameworks that have been adopted globally or even regionally, also from policy frameworks, when there is an international consensus on terminologies and concepts and a basis to produce information like this, it usually creates a big boost of pilot studies, new tables, new indicators coming out of countries, perhaps a lot more resource. So 2026, I really think, could be a huge boost year for disaster statistics, simply from the international recognition and adoption and the sort of wave that could create for this area of work. So those are my thoughts. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you very much, Daniel, and it's great to see your excitement about this, and I share lots of it. And I think many of your points I think are shared by many of you. So thank you very much of this. But make best use of existing statistics, get the full picture. I think these are also very, very important aspects that count for any framework, but I think in that for that one is very, very particularly important, and the boost in disaster-related statistics after the adoption by the Statistical Commission, I think, is also something that we can expect from next year's onwards. Unfortunately, I have to ask the other panelists to be a bit shorter. I let Daniel talk a bit longer because he didn't have a chance to talk. We have already heard many ideas in your previous interventions that are related to the global framework, but maybe in a few sentences, each of you can share your thoughts in terms of, how can the global framework help to address all these challenges that you have mentioned? So what can be really practical advice to those who are behind the drafting of the framework, and practical advice that can help in making it implemented in the countries at the end of the day? Very briefly, Peter, please, for the sake of time. So maybe I can start with Armando first, and then I would ask Angela and then Hakan. Armando, please.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, can I start answering the question in the chat?
Yes, you can also. Yes, please. But be brief, please.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Okay. There is a continuing monitoring of some variables, but not all the variables. Even results are captured daily and compiled and presented at the end of the period. This data is collected by other institutions who are responsible to respond to the emergencies when they attend. So at the end of the period, we compile and present the comprehensive annual report. So this is how we work out every year. How we work every year. So regarding the question of the how to improve, I think the use of our the generation of the platforms to analytical uses can be a great help, providing access to global environmental and social data and generating basic environmental and risk monitoring indicators. This allows for real-time alerts and major hazards and helps to reduce the impact on our climate and human things in cause events. Currently, there are basic environmental analysis platforms, but not all the users have access to these platforms due to the capacity and some other issues intern in the country. No?
Thank you very much, Armando. Then I think Angela, please.
Yes, I think that again, that these international frameworks are very useful because when you speak about disasters and climate change, you speak with people coming from different agencies, and so it is very important because it helps having statistics and having indicators that can be common for everybody could be very useful to have a common language, and the common language is essential to build in this case, in the case of disasters and climate change. So I mean, I think that in this case, this kind of frameworks can really help to build this, to build statistics as common language from global to local, and again from local to global. This is, in my opinion, and this gives tools to the National Statistical Organization to work with the scientists or common people that came from different domain. I think it's very important to have the possibility to tell, okay, I'm going to produce this kind of indicators, and you can use this kind of indicators at different territorial level before the event and after the event. This is ready for you, and it's better to use this instead of others that you are thinking about. And this happens in a lot of different meetings with people coming from different domain or institutions. So common language, statistics and international frameworks as common language, and this can help at different territorial level. And this is what we need to communicate with the stakeholders, with common citizens, and with everybody, because in climate change and hazardous events is something that is related concretely to everybody in different situations. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Thank you very much, Angela. And Hakan, what are your closing thoughts on this discussion looking forward?
Thank you, Michael. I will try to be concise. First of all, the forthcoming G-DRSF, I think, offers a real opportunity to move from a fragmented data efforts toward a coherent practical system that all countries can actually use. As it is reminded, the G-DRSF can help by providing a common statistical language across different institutions, which gives us a shared reference point for data definitions, classifications, and workflows. Additionally, countries need technical guidance to operationalize the framework, so the G-DRSF should come with practical tools, templates, and training, similar to what was done under the SEA and SDG indicator frameworks. And also to make the G-DRSF practical, we should also keep it modular and flexible, allowing countries to start with what they already collect and gradually expand. In fact, one size fits all does not work here because data systems differ widely, and also aligning it with national policy needs like climate adaptation plans or sustainable development plans will make it more relevant and easier to sustain. And in my experience, a framework only truly takes off when it starts shaping real policy decisions. For example, once the greenhouse gas emission statistics began guiding net zero targets and nationally determined contributions, it just stopped being numbers, but turned into a real policy tool. That is exactly the kind of transformation we need for the G-DRSF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hakan. So I'm not wrapping up this now because for the sake of time, but I would like to thank all my panelists. I hope this was really useful personal thoughts and national experiences that you shared with the audience, and I think this provides lots of useful insights for the operationalization of the global disaster-related statistics frameworks, and I hope it also created some appetite for all those who are connected now in having a look at the global framework now in the e-consultation, but also later on after its endorsement, hopefully in March, for implementation in their countries. With that, thanks again, and I hand back to the chair. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much to our panelists and for Mr. Nagy for the engaging discussion today. It was so interesting to hear the different country experiences. So thank you all for joining us. So we've heard some valuable insights on outcomes, good practices, and challenges, also perspectives on how the G-DRSF can be designed to be practical and usable. And these will be themes that we continue for the next 3 days. So I wanted to notify you, we're going to make a slight change to the agenda. We want to make sure that we have a moment to give the background on the G-DRSF, the presentation that we wanted to give previously, as this is important background information for the rest of the forum. So what we're going to do now is go on break for 10 minutes. This will give us a chance to do some IT testing to make sure we don't have any additional issues with presenting. And when we resume in 10 minutes at about 10:30, we'll begin with the G-DRSF presentation and then continue with session 2 as planned. So we will go on break now and we will see you in about 10 minutes and we'll be doing some testing in the meantime. So thank you everyone for your flexibility and we will see you very soon. Thank you so much.
And figure out what is going on. So slight changes to session 2. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Kanza Ahmed. I am Head of Global Disasters, Climate and Health at the UK Health Security Agency. And I'm also one of the co-chairs of the IAEG alongside Rike Monk-Hansen and Animesh Kumar. So the purpose of this session is we want to focus on the concepts and classifications in disaster statistics. They're really important because if we don't have the concepts and classifications clear and the definitions clear, then it's very difficult to understand what we are building our statistics upon. So that was why we wanted to actually focus on chapters 2 and 3 of the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework, and so to tease out some of the important issues when it comes to definitions. We've got a great lineup of speakers today. Hopefully you will be able to hear them and maybe even see their slides. But we do want to try and encourage some interaction. Because obviously some of you know earlier Svanche wasn't able to do the entirety of his presentation, we're going to now combine the presentation that should have been in the first session with the one he's going to do in this session anyway. So he will have approximately a little bit more time just to be able to deliver on that, just so that you don't miss out, because I think it's really important that everybody here gets the basics around the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework and why it's so important that we engage with it. So just some housekeeping and a reminder that the session is simultaneously in Spanish and English. The interpretation button is at the bottom of the page. If you are dialing in by the web page and you are struggling with the presentations, think about downloading the app instead, and you should be able to see the presentations and hear the speakers. And make sure that you're in original audio if you want to hear the person speaking in their original language. There is one presentation in this session that's going to be delivered in Spanish, so we'd ask you then to switch over to the English interpretation if English is your preferred language. Please do use the chat function if you've got any questions. We will be monitoring that, but just to be aware, we've had to cut the Q&A session slightly because we do need to finish at 4 o'clock for 4 o'clock UK time, to ensure that actually our interpreters are able to dial off on time. And just on behalf of the organisers, want to say thank you to the interpreters for their hard work. We know it isn't easy to do this virtually, and we do appreciate the work that they're putting in as well. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to the first half of this session. In this first half, you're going to hear 3 presentations. The first one from our colleague Swan Che from UN Office Disaster Risk Reduction. We will then hear from Professor Virginia Murray and then from Professor Saini Yang. I will do introductions for them as the time comes up. But first of all, Swan Che from UN Office Disaster Risk Reduction will give a deeper review of the technical elements of the Global Disaster Related Statistics Framework and some introductions around what the framework is there to do and how it will support you. And a reminder that the global consultation closes tomorrow, so do use the opportunity to get your feedback in. Over to you, Swan Che.
Thank you very much, Kanza, and hello again, dear participants. I will give it another try on giving you an introduction of the disaster realistic framework and why we're creating this framework. It is created to meet the mandate and the need of member states on compiling more reliable and more consistent disaster statistics. This will include the statistic both in terms of the terminology, but also include the data collection guidelines, methodologies, and to enhance comparability across domains, across countries, and across different sectors. Under this mandate, the IAEG created the first draft of the Global Disaster-Related Statistics Framework, which have launched a global consultation this month. The deadline, as Kanza has mentioned, is tomorrow. So it focuses on measure the linking the framework with other statistics and disaster framework, and measuring the measurement areas such as a risk, occurrences, the impact, the expenditure account of disaster statistics. Next slide, please, Alexis. Thank you. A quick run through of the history was the IAEG-DRS was created in 2020. And one of the major events annually is this very particular global expert forum. We have the 5th forum so far, one hosted by each region. And between these expert forum, the IAEG-DRS also provided a written report, hosted a series of regular meetings, webinars, and consultations with expert groups and different sector experts on advancing the different perspectives of the framework. So finally, in this year, 2025, we have started the global consultation after the drafting of the forum. And hopefully that the review process will be concluded by end of this year, that the framework will be presented to the next year's March 2026, the 57th session of the United Nations Statistical Commission. Next slide, please. So the framework considered not only the existing indicator set, but also the system of national accounts, system of environment, economic account, the different existing regional frameworks, such as the ISCAP-DRSF and the FDES, as well as many other data compilation and assessment guidelines. It's not building from, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're building this framework from the collection of disaster statistic frameworks, guidelines, and indicator sets. And all of this is aligned, harmonized in the framework of the G-DRSF. Next slide, please. This one shows the main structure of the 6 chapters that's included in the draft DRSF. The first 3 chapters mainly discuss the interlinkage between the disaster statistics and other statistical frameworks, as well as the different roles and implementation responsibilities among the different national entities. And then the next 3 chapters focus on the different aspects of measurement area, specifically the non-event specific statistics, the event specific statistics, and the expenditure account. Next slide, please. Just to give a very quick introduction of the background of the G-DRSF, it is discussed in chapter 1 of the objectives and the need to have the global framework. In chapter 1, it discussed the relevance with, for instance, the SDG with Sendai framework, with a variety of climate change actions and UNFCCC processes, and also with the linkage of the statistical community. It's also discussing the relevance at the national level with the different national statistical compilation tools and strategies, including the national strategy for the development of statistics and the sectoral strategies. Next slide, please. As you have already know, the whole G-DRSF is going through a global consultation, and so far we have received a voluminous feedback from the DRR expert, from statisticians, and from different other key stakeholders and experts. Some of the main examples of the global consultation is currently being summarized. I'm listing here a few of the examples from the global consultation on the feedback chapter 1, which include the experts' input on the context and the need for disaster-related statistics. As you can see from the screen, it shows a lot of there's a lot of input about the historical context, about national cases, about interoperability, and to include emerging data issues. This is only a very few examples of a lot of good feedbacks, and we're consolidating all the feedback, and hopefully a summary will be published soon. Next slide, please. The next 3 chapters, chapter 4, 5, 6 of the G-DRSF mainly cover the 3 key measurement areas, which consists of the conceptual framework of the disaster-related statistic, and that include the risk statistic, which is detailed by exposure, vulnerability, and coping capacity statistics, and by the occurrence and impacts, which is detailed in chapter 5, and finally the expenditure account, which is detailed in chapter 6. And next slide, please. We also recognize the importance of integrating the G-DRSF with climate change processes, with geospatial data management, and with other key expert communities of the statistical communities. For instance, the G-DRSF help to inform the adaptation measure, track impact, and respond to loss and damage in climate change settings. Some of the statistics that we're developing are directly informing and help establish the indicator of the currently underdeveloped global goal on adaptation indicators, which will be discussed at the COP30 this year in Belém. Next slide, please. I think I'll skip this one because it lists all the 11 targets of the global goal adaptation, and many of these targets relate with disaster statistics. And finally, this is my last slide, which lists the way forward, as we are already conducted the webinar series, and the global consultation is finishing tomorrow. We will summarize the feedback from NSOs and DMAs and regional commission, and draft the report of statistical commission, and finally to deliver the report March 2026 session of the Stats Commission. So the global consultation is still open for 2 days, and we are still welcoming all experts' contribution to the framework. So Thank you. I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Swanche, for that brilliant presentation. And hopefully that has given our participants an insight into the background and the development of the Global Disaster Rate Statistics Framework. It hasn't been developed in isolation. It is actually part of a bigger picture, and hopefully it will help colleagues to develop their own statistics within country. Swanche, just want to check, did you want to do your other presentation? We have some time if you want to do the one for this session. Before we move over to our next speaker.
Yes, I think I can quickly summarize the presentation intended for this session, session 2, about a deeper dive of chapter 2 and 3. So may I dare to try present it myself this time and see how it works.
Alexis, are you happy to share the presentation for this session? Brilliant. Off you go, Sanjay.
Okay, thank you, Alexis. So once again, thank you, colleagues. Just to quickly give a deeper dive of what what are the content and the feedback we have gathered from chapter 2 and 3. Next slide, please. So our participant can get an idea about what we are trying to summarize and achieve here. So this is a repeat of what I just mentioned. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. And as you can see, the first chapter focused on the underpinning and the need and the key definitions, the key terminologies, and related statistical and disaster frameworks, as well as the national and international context. On the right side, you can see there's a diagram illustrating the different users, producer, and stakeholders of disaster-related statistics, and it's very diverse implementation and its utilization for national, international use, for disaster use, and for statistical use. Next, please. For chapter 2, the main focus of this chapter is on the global conceptual framework, which we have just illustrated. Some of the most important key concepts that are related to disaster and hazardous event were discussed. For instance, what defines a hazard, what defines a hazardous event and disasters, what are the exposure, vulnerability, etc., and how do you defect different type and categories of impact. So all of these key concepts are fundamental for producing any type of disaster-related statistics, and the G-DRSF is intending to create some international guideline and standard on defining these very diverse yet very important terms across all member states. The chapter also tried to relate the disaster framework with national account, SIA, the existing environment statistic indicator set, FDES, and the global set of climate change statistic indicators, as well as the geospatial information framework, including the UN IAEG-DRS, the strategic framework on geospatial information, and the statistical geospatial frameworks. So all of these are crucial component for producing a complete set of disaster-related statistics, because as we all know, disaster doesn't occur in isolation. It have effect on social, demographic, economic, geospatial, and climate change, all these sectors. And only through close collaboration, working with these sectors, can we possibly achieve a robust disaster-related statistics. Not only that, but we also recognize that there were a lot of efforts that have already started to assess the loss and damage and to create guidelines for monitoring the disaster impact. One of the first ever effort was created by ECLAC to create a handbook for disaster assessment and provide guidelines for methodology exercise for assessing disaster impact. Through that, much more work has emerged, including the post-disaster need assessment, the damage and loss assessment, or the PDN or the DALA methodology. These were widely used by a lot of the member states. And so we are incorporating the key terminologies from these handbooks, methodology guidelines, the PDNA and DALA into the G-DRSF as well. And also from the ECLAC-DRSF, the ECE created CES recommendation of official statistics measure hazardous event. All the key terminologies and methodology are considered. Not only that, we recognize that we cannot measure disasters and hazardous event if we cannot clearly make a classification or define what type of hazard it has occurring. That's why the major international classification system, including the HIPS, the WMO cataloging of hazardous events, and the IAEG-DRS peril classification was also reviewed and discussed in chapter 2 as well. Next slide, please. I think in the interest of time, this is also a reminder of the first presentation, so I'll skip through this. Next slide, please. And the next slide is on the HIPS. And I just want to say we will have an excellent presentation for the chair of the steering committee, Professor Virginia Murray, who will present on the detail of the HIPS. So I'm not going to detail here, so we can go to the next slides. Here are some of the key examples of the feedbacks from the global consultation. Experts have mention of the closer incorporation between G-DRSF and the other framework as a key element, but there's also emphasis mentioned on the treatment for slow onset event, the different type of damage, loss, and impact, and the recommendation, for instance, to add a glossary, adding national case studies, and to include the impact on natural ecosystem, and etc. So all this is very well welcome, and we appreciate all the expert input, which a lot of you are in presence today. So thank you very much for your contribution to the global consultation, and we will work to combine all these good feedback into the next version of the G-DRSF. Next slide, please. And finally, in just this, I think this is my last slide, is on the chapter 3, which focused on the implementation ecosystem. In this chapter, the G-DRSF mainly talk about the different type of information need in the national and international context. For national context, the data ecosystem for DRR activity and the different roles of the organization, it's a main focus. And for the international context, the strengthening with the data ecosystem with international framework are discussed. And some of the example of feedback, including a stronger coordination, a more gradual implementation strategy, the emphasis on gender disaggregation, and to focus on population group with specific needs. These are also mentioned as the key recommendations for the global consultation. And once again, thank you, everyone. And I think I've already taken so much time, so I will stop here. I'm happy to discuss further in the Q&A sessions. Thank you. Back to you, Kenza.
Thank you very much, Svanche, and really pleased that we managed to get both your presentations in, because I think it was really important to set that context, and hopefully people were able to see the slides. If you weren't able to, I put something in the chat that it may be that actually if you change over to the Google Chrome browser, you may be able to see the slides better. So do consider doing that if you're on the web link. Right, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Professor Virginia Murray, who has been a mentor to me and was the very person who got me thinking about disaster risk reduction. So I'm really pleased to have her joining us today to talk about the hazard information profiles and the latest updates. Alexis will share the slides and Virginia will sort of try to provide the verbal update via the slides. Just to make you aware, Virginia can't see the slides at her end at the moment, so we will just ask for your patience as we try and work through that. Thank you very much, and over to you, Virginia.
Kanza, can you hear me?
We can indeed.
Can you hear me? Oh,
can hear
thank you so much, Kanza. I'm not sure my video is working as well. I think that's a slight problem, so apologies for that as well. But Alexis, I gather you're going to be really kind and share my slides. So if we could start with the first slide. To me, it is the most enormous honour to be contributing to the 5th Global Expert Forum for Producers and Users of Disaster-Related Statistics. I am so impressed that you have managed to do so much under this work, and I'm so excited you've got a framework coming. It's really phenomenal, and I hope that we contributed a little bit. Somebody's saying that the audio is really bad, the sound is really bad. Can I improve it at all?
Yeah, so the audio sounds a bit mechanical, Virginia. Just checking, are you using headphones? That might improve.
I'm using a
if you use
headset.
headphones. You are using a headset?
I'm using the, yep. Should be working, but I can't get my camera to work either. Shall we try and go through the slides and use the slides to do the talking? Will that work, Kanza?
Say that again, sorry, Virginia, we couldn't quite hear you then. Apologies.
Can we use the slides to do the talking? So
yes,
Alexis, if you could share slides.
We do have the slides already shared, so you just need to talk us through, but we just can't quite hear you very well, Virginia.
I'm so sorry, forgive me. It looks good on my end.
Maybe try without the headset. If you unplug the headset and try that way, it might be that the headset's just interfering with the web page. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience whilst we deal with tech issues. It's not a virtual meeting if we do not have technical issues, so perfectly normal. Virginia, are you able to hear us? Just checking Virginia's online. What we could potentially do if Virginia just needs to figure out her system is, if Virginia, if you're okay, I don't know if you can hear me, if we move on to the next presentation, I can bring you back in after this. I think that might be easier, and then we've got at least 10 minutes to figure out how to get you back online and onto the system again. Hopefully that's okay. Okay, what we'll do is we'll move on to the next presentation, and then we'll bring Virginia back in. So it means she's going to have to wait a little bit longer to hear the excellent presentation. So hopefully Professor Saini Young is online and able to hear us and join. Do speak up. Yeah, I see you. Brilliant.
Yes, I can
Great
hear
to
you.
see you.
Can you hear
And
me?
I can hear you too. Fabulous. So I'm really excited to introduce Professor Saini Young, who is Executive Director of Integrated Research on Disaster Risk, so IRDR. And she's going to be talking about applications of disaster statistics in national disaster risk reduction. Over to you.
All right, can you see my screen? It may take a little bit time. Can you see that?
It is waiting to share, just I think it's taking a few seconds to upload.
Okay.
Yep, we can see your slides.
Okay, thank you very much, Kenda. Thank you very much for inviting me for this, I think, very important event. and I'm really looking forward to the new global framework for disaster statistics. So on behalf of IRDR, I'd like to introduce a little bit what we have done before towards disaster statistics and its application. So especially I'll address on how to use disaster statistics in national disaster risk reduction planning. Okay, so first, I just want to briefly introduce IRDR, Integrated Research on Disaster Risk. This is an international science program co-sponsored by International Science Council as well as UNDRR. And our mission is to mobilize science and technology to support inclusive, safe, and sustainable development. We have been there for more than 16 years. And for IRDR, we have 3 missions: improve knowledge and understanding of risk and uncertainty, promote innovation in research and action, and explore effective solutions in DRR. Of course, disaster statistics one of them, and also build institutional capacity required for risk-informed development. In this years, we were also introducing, implementing seminars to introduce these different classifications as well as HIPS and the disaster risk information. So from IRDR perspective, I want to talk about the 4 examples. Number 1 is the understand hazards. We as a mainly academic group for DRR, of course, we are strongly supporting global disaster statistics because this is so important. IRDR launched the hazard classification in 2014. At that time it's called hazard information classification. So that was like a working group for IRDR. And from there, we separate the natural hazards into geophysical, hydrological, meteorological, climatological, biological, as well as astro-terrestrial. So that evolved. I'm pretty sure that Virginia will cover that in her presentation. And I just want to let everybody know that the newly released HIPS hazard information profile has expanded this family into 282 reviewed hazards across 8 types and 39 clusters. So it has been greatly expanded, especially for those non-natural hazards. And of course, the cascading effect and the disaster chain effect. The important thing for IRDR is that we not only develop these classifications, but also we tested different disaster loss data collection protocols. This has been the IRDR pilot study back in 2018. Then this protocol has been applied in Bangladesh, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Fiji, New Zealand, and Samoa, etc. This is also a very simple protocol. Defined that for mortality, for affected people, for economic losses, for number of destroyed facilities, or disrupted basic service. What are the key variables that we need to collect, and how to count those statistics? So based on that, our IRDR Young Scientist, we have a program for YSP, Young Scientist Program. They also developed different integrated disaster data portal. For example, the BIPAD, BIPAD. This is an integrated platform, synthesize hazard information, disaster loss information, climate change data, risk information data, and etc. And this has been applied in more than 400 communities in Nepal. This is implemented by one of our young scientists. This is promoted in the Asia Pacific Science Technology Conference on DR in 2022. So basically, this say that yes, these are doable. If we keep this simple, straightforward, yes, we can do that. This disaster statistics helped IRDR to develop one of the earliest multi-hazard impact-based early warning system globally. This is also back in 2019, which is much early than the early warning for all initiative in 2022. So in 2020, some hands on. I'll answer that later. 2019, then IRDR analyzed statistics, disaster statistics, and noticed that it's so important to look at multi-hazard and also look at the impact-based rather than hazard-based early warning. So, of course, there's some like interesting applications. For example, like the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs Disaster Management, they established this National Multi-Hazard Early Warning Center to further facilitate this, and UNDRR filmed this case. You can, if you're interested, you can scan the QR code. I just want to say that for the early warning system, what we proposed back in 2019, number one is we're looking at the different hazards and what are the major hazards that need to be focused in a region, heavily rely on the disaster statistics. And also we utilize the vulnerability exposure data to be able to estimate the impact. So all this have to build on solid global disaster statistics. And of course, this has been implemented in real world in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, the city that developed their own multi-hazard early warning system before COVID, something around like 2019, I forgot the exact years. Using this early warning system, they are able to collect multi-hazard loss data, multi-hazard, like hazard data, loss data, and of course they have their own like exposure system, vulnerability assessment system. So all this information later on was further introduced into this risk-informed land use planning for Kuala Lumpur. So, so from here we see a huge potential to better incorporate disaster statistics in decision making. The third example I want to introduce is about in China, because China is one of the most disaster-prone country in the world. So they started this global GDDAT, global database, global disaster database back in 2019 as well. So this system has English version and also, of course, Chinese version. It's like recording and monitoring all the global disaster and its losses as well. At the same time, they are also contributing on the Chinese data. And based on this database, they developed this global national natural disaster assessment report. This annual report, 2024 is coming in the International Day for DRR. The important thing I want to say that here, I see that this robust disaster statistics is really needed, because this will be able to provide the benchmark for national plan. Because in China, they have this every 5 years, they have like national comprehensive plan on DRR. And in this national plan, they set up the target, because if you want to implement something or improve something, you're going to be able to set up the goal there, right? And also you need to know the benchmark. So if you carefully look at the 11th 5-year, which is 2006 to 2010, they set the annual direct economic loss to 1.5 of GDP. And actually, in that 5-year, the actual loss is about 2% of GDP. That's because they experienced the winter earthquake, which is about like 1 trillion RMB direct economic loss. And for population safety, they say that they're going to significantly reduce the annual disaster-induced deaths. And for the relief time, they set it to 24 hours. That they can provide the basic living support to victims or to affected population. And they set a goal of 1,000 demonstrative community for comprehensive disaster risk reduction. So, but in the 12th 5-year, they slightly change it to, for example, like the relief time, 10 to 12 hours. That's because they have all this disaster statistics. So they know that they can, yes, they have to improve it, and they can improve it. So actually this 12 hours goal was achieved in the 12th 5-year. Then it goes to the 13th 5-year, you probably can see that the annual mortality rate was reduced to 1.3 per million, and the annual economic loss was set to 1.3% of the GDP. And actually during that 5 years, this average is about 0.4 of GDP, which is far below the target number. And the average mortality is about 0.7. It's also like much lower than the 5 years lost in the last 5 years. And if we look at the 14th, they further reduce this mortality rate to one per million people, and of course they reduce the relief timeline to 10 hours. So when we look at these numbers, I talked to the experts who are defining this. Basically they look at all the years disaster loss statistics. So they can have very solid evidence in this policy making. Another interesting thing is like robust statistics is very important for global comparison, so that they can help goal setting as well as help with global collaboration. So if we look at here, they basically they use this axle represent GDP per capita, and the y-axis represents the loss ratio, basically the mortality deaths per million people. So for China, they put China in this, each dot represents a country. So this is the average between 1989 to 1999. This is to 2000 to 2009. This is 2010. The last one is 2010 to 2019. So basically, they try to use this comparison to observe if has China improved, and who are the neighbors, who are the countries that they need to look at and try to learn from. So actually this type of comparison is very helpful. Then they would be able to tell that, okay, so these are the countries are at a similar economic development level, and probably they are the ones who have very similar hazard intensity, and why they have lower mortality rate or lower economic loss rate. So in this way, they find their company or find this their learning model. So I think this type of robust, so that's why it's very important if we want to change a global statistic framework, make sure that this is consistent and be compatible with the previous frameworks, so that people will not lose the benchmark. And of course, we're using satellite image right now for disaster assessment, because it's a very important disaster statistics source. We use it for against wildfire, for recognition of fires and continuous monitoring. And IAEG-DRS is also developing new models to monitor the global flooding, to implement rapid loss assessment. All these are critical for emergency relief as well as post-disaster assessment for reconstruction. So with this, again, like IAEG is very, very honored to be able to engage in this conversation and contributing to the new global framework. So with this, we want to build new development, new partnership with our partners, with new partners globally, and so that we can work towards to this global disaster framework. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Yang. It was actually great to see that overview, and definitely to get some of that understanding of what's happening in China as well, and how the learning from that can be applied. We'll save the questions till the end. If you do have any questions, please do put them in the chat. We are now hopefully going to have Professor Virginia Murray online. I can actually see your face this time, so I'm quite excited. Alexis will share your slides for you. Hopefully you can hear us and we can hear you. And we've dealt with the echo issue. And finally, we'll get around to hearing the excellent presentation. Over to you, Virginia.
Kanza, thank you for your patience, and Anna and everybody who's been helping me. I'm so grateful. And just like Saini, I'm very honored to be part of this incredible work you and Animesh and others are leading. It's incredible. So the next slide, please, just summarizes the 2015 incredible UN landmark agreements. And the next slide just reminds you of how blue it was and what an incredible achievement it was to get the Sendai framework through. The next slide talks about just reminding you what the global targets and indicators are. And then it takes us directly through the next slide, which is looking at how we are going to try and do the Sendai framework loss and damage. So the big question in the Sendai framework that we were asked to address was to strengthen technical and scientific capacity to assess disaster loss, disaster risks, vulnerabilities, exposure to all hazards. And on the next slide, you will see the products that we did in 2020 and 2021. Kanza, thank you again for your help in delivering this with many others. And the many others on the next slide are very clearly the many UN partners to UNDRR. I think we worked with about 40 of them. Wasn't it amazing, Kanza, with so many others that helped? And that we worked with the International Science Council partners, the Insurance Development Forum, and of course for communities, the International Humanitarian Organization of the International Federation of the Red Cross, Red Crescent. By bringing all these wonderful networks together, we were so proud that when we came on the next slide to the report on the midterm review, that for the implementation of the Sendai framework, that it was described as groundbreaking, and this seemed to be a really important step forward. But the consequence of it being recognized like that was that it would link directly to the next slide, which is on the disaster loss and damage tracking system that UNDRR, WMO, and UNDP have been building and has been so important. And you will see on the next slide that the hazard information profiles and the hazard definition and classification review was very much part of ensuring the data standards that Animesh and others in UNDRR have been calling for. So in 2023, the consequence was that we would have an update of these hazard information profiles. And this time we had a huge amount of support, particularly from the International Science Council, where Hélène Jacob Descommes was our project manager, and she worked very closely with Saini and others to deliver the hazard information profiles with so many. So on the next slide, you have this lovely blue, dark blue covers of the Hazard Information Profiles 2025 update and the Hazard Definition and Classification Review, the Technical Report update, which we were able to publish this year and were launched formally, not only at the global platform, but also in August when we had an incredible launch with Kamal Kishore, who is the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction, along with Peter Gluckman, who's the President of the International Science Council, and many others. So what does it contain this time? The next slide shows the 281 hazards. We've managed to reduce the number of hazards by combining, working, sharing, learning, how we could link them better, and I'll show you how we did that in a moment. So we have still the hydrometeorological hazards, the extraterrestrial, the chemical, the biological, the technological, the environmental, the geological, and for completeness, the societal. So we have 8 types of hazards, which are there very much for people to be aware of. And we hope this is helpful. So if we can go to the next slide, I'm giving you an example of one, which is flooding. You will see that there's a clear definition which the World Meteorological Organization and UNESCO have pulled together, dated in 2012, that we have additional scientific description. And as this is a chapeau, we link to the other hazards which are related to flooding. And there are about 70 that WMO recommend for flooding, but we ended up with our 12 that we think are really important, including flash flood and even surface water flooding. So they're all there for you to see, but because there are so many others, we know a chapeau was needed. On the next slide, you will see that there is hazard drivers, and this will include the health impacts from floods, but also the economic impacts that you've been talking about, Saini, the incredibly important information about how much these things cost. And on the next slide, you will see that there's a very clear multi-hazard context, which I'll explain a bit further, and how we monitor and how we actually provide the information for the early warning for all, along with the next showing the risk management and the references that are all open access and linked to WMO. So if we go to slide 16, you will see that there's a very clear parent and child approach, very much something that was pushed by the World Meteorological Organization. So what drives flooding? It can be geological, hydrometeorological, and we get very worried about it. So then the flooding, but the consequence of flooding means damage, geological, technological, environmental, and even biological events. So you can get diarrheal diseases, fungal plant diseases, human-wildlife conflict, and even snake bite envenoming. And then you also have the risk of floating explosive ordnance, which is obviously a real concern. So on slide 17, the next slide, you will see that we have space debris. Then we also have earthquakes, loss of mangroves, corrosive substances, foodborne diseases, building collapse, and even environmental degradation from conflict. All areas that are simply critical for our thinking of these things. And we know that that's going to be hopefully very helpful for everybody who is involved in disaster statistics, looking at a multi-hazard context. The next bit I wanted to share with you is the fact that we are looking really hard about how this has come to pass. So what we've had is incredibly effective collaboration with many to try and provide really important information on different organizations, agencies and disciplines to deliver this, to make scientifically robust and user-friendly data. And through our new group of the UN Office of Disaster Risk Reduction International Science Council Machine Actionability Working Group, and huge thanks to UNDRR for their support in this, encoding the terminologies in line with the FAIR principles, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, to make translations easier and hopefully to facilitate AI usage. None of this could be done without the incredible engagement of the steering group, the technological group members, the use of the multi-hazard context and machine and actionability group members, and the many other additional contributors and reviewers of the HIPS. This was all launched at the global platform. So on my very final slide, Alexis, if you've managed to keep up with me, you will see that we are really interested in how we deliver the Sendai framework global targets and indicators, using the hazard information profiles and making sure that we hopefully have all the hazards that you will need to be able to deliver this in the disaster related statistics and to support the disaster loss and damage tracking system. Many thanks for inviting me to contribute, Kanza, and all of you for the support you've given us in doing this.
Thank you so much, Virginia, for that excellent presentation. Are you pleased to hear the slides kept up perfectly as you were speaking? So actually, it was smooth teamwork going on. But we recognise that the transformation profiles have been a labour of love. And on behalf of everybody, we want to take this opportunity to thank you for all the work that you have put in over the years and your passion and dedication, because had you not pushed this, I don't think we would be in such a good situation in terms of being able to have these definitions that support the statistical work as well. So thank you very much on behalf of the IAEG for your hard work as well. So we're now going to move on very, very swiftly into the second half of the session. And we're now going to actually talk about the country perspective. So we've had that contextual overview from colleagues working in the multilateral space, but we now want to hear about what's happening within countries. So we've got three great country perspectives coming up from Mexico, Lebanon, and Mauritius. And the purpose of this session is to focus on the application of different types of disaster-related statistics and how you can implement a disaster risk mitigation policy. So first up, I would like to introduce Ms. Carla Mendez, who is Deputy Director of Economic and Social Studies at the National Center for Disaster Prevention from Mexico. And she's going to talk to us about the experience with disaster-related statistics. You have 7 minutes, Carla, so over to you. Thank you.
¿Qué tal? Muy buenos días. Voy a hacer mi presentación en español, para no perder la secuencia de lo que quiero expresar. voy a permitirme compartir mi presentación. ¿Ahí la pueden ver?
We can indeed.
Ok, perfecto. Entonces, bueno, lo que quiero compartir esta mañana es la experiencia de México con las estadísticas relacionadas con desastres. Bueno, quiero comenzar comentando que el CENAPRED, el Centro Nacional de Prevención de Desastres, que pertenece al Ministerio de Seguridad Pública, tiene precisamente como atribución, entre sus atribuciones principales, evaluar el impacto socioeconómico de los desastres e integrar sus resultados a través de datos abiertos. Para esto, dentro del CENAPRED existe una subdirección, que es a la cual yo pertenezco, que coordina los proyectos de investigación sobre la repercusión de los desastres en la economía y la sociedad en las regiones afectadas por fenómenos tanto de origen natural como antropogénico, y principalmente cuantificando el impacto socioeconómico de los desastres para contar con información estadística relevante que sirva como base para el diseño de estrategias de prevención y mitigación. Con esto lo que quiero expresar pues es el compromiso de México y destacar la necesidad también que tiene de contar con información estadística relevante sobre el efecto de los desastres en el país. Ahora bien, ¿cómo medimos los desastres? Pues a través de los efectos que generan pues, sobre la sociedad. En este caso, pues el número de muertes y el número de daños y pérdidas, ¿no? Del impacto de la población afectada. ¿Y cuál es el propósito? Pues principalmente medir en términos monetarios el impacto de los desastres sobre la sociedad, la economía y, si es posible, el medio ambiente del país o de las regiones principalmente afectadas, disponer de medios para determinar el valor de los acervos perdidos y definir los requerimientos de reconstrucción en el momento y a futuro. Y también, pues, la capacidad del país para la reconstrucción y fijar sus necesidades en la cooperación internacional. Para esto también ya se ha mencionado el uso de la metodología de daños y pérdidas desarrollado por la Comisión Económica para América Latina y el Caribe, que es en México utilizamos una adaptación de esta metodología. Utilizamos estos términos que se refieren a daños y pérdidas y bueno, los efectos macroeconómicos. Igualmente, esto lo hacemos cuando existen grandes eventos en el país. Hacemos esta adaptación, vemos el impacto del desastre en los diferentes sectores. Ahorita en un momento les comento qué hemos encontrado. Ya tenemos alrededor de 20 años recopilando esta información. No omito mencionar que con las dificultades que representa esto de contar con información estandarizada, porque básicamente la recopilamos a nivel local, y pues la dificultad que existe también a nivel local de contar con esta información estandarizada. La terminología también que utilizamos, si bien se parece mucho a lo que presentaron anteriormente, pues nos basamos principalmente en lo que dicta nuestra legislación, en la Ley General de Protección Civil, y también tratamos de apegarnos a los marcos internacionales. Sin embargo, por poner solo un ejemplo, dentro de la Ley General de Protección Civil, dentro de los fenómenos de tipo socioorganizativo, que así los menciona la ley, se encuentran, por ejemplo, los accidentes de transporte, ¿no? Entonces, que esto pues me parece que va hacia otro término que no necesariamente tiene que ver con desastres, ¿no? Y bueno, ¿qué hemos aprendido en estos 20 años de recopilación de información? Pues muchísimo, ¿no? Para nosotros ha sido muy relevante contar con esta información estandarizada. ¿Por qué? Pues porque vemos ver que los desastres tienen un costo enorme y medible que a menudo asciende a miles de millones de dólares en un solo año, ¿no? También podemos ver que han ocasionado un gran número de muertes, afectado a más de 60 millones de personas en el país, más de 2 millones de hogares, escuelas, que también hemos encontrado de relevancia a lo largo de contar con esta información a lo largo de 20 años, pues que alrededor del 81% de los daños y pérdidas son principalmente por fenómenos de tipo hidrometeorológico y también que tienen que ver principalmente con lluvias y ciclones tropicales. Aquí les mencionaba un poco este sesgo de los accidentes de transporte, ya que los fenómenos de tipo socioorganizativo pues, nos representan el 47% de las muertes, seguidos también por los fenómenos de tipo hidrometeorológico, y pues también encontramos más o menos el promedio de declaratorias tanto de emergencia, que en el país activan mecanismos de apoyo de emergencia principalmente para insumos a la población y de desastre de recursos para la reconstrucción. Entonces vemos que pues en el país han presentado principalmente emergencias en su mayoría, y antes existían unas que eran de contingencia climatológica que tenían que ver con el impacto en el campo. También podemos ver que a lo largo de estos 20 años, en los últimos 10 años, que tiene que ver también por el aumento de la exposición pues de los bienes expuestos en el país, en los últimos 10 años es donde hemos encontrado el mayor impacto de los desastres, y que tienen que ver con fenómenos como ciclones tropicales y como sismos. Aquí también me gustaría comentar que ya también se ha mencionado, pues, tanto que en nuestros registros, en algunos países, tenemos registros sobre eventos, no necesariamente grandes desastres. Sin embargo, aquí el ejemplo que quiero dar es que en el 2010, si bien no tuvimos desastres de la magnitud del 2017, donde tuvimos 2 sismos que afectaron alrededor de un 80% del país, y en el 2023 tuvimos un huracán de categoría 5 que afectó a una población de casi 1 millón de habitantes. En el 2010 tuvimos muchos desastres de menor magnitud, pero que en conjunto han hecho que este año sea el más costoso para el país. Y bueno, también esto quiero decir que ha contribuido esta información a diferentes estudios y marcos y programas en el país, que tiene que ver, por ejemplo, con el panel intergubernamental de cambio climático, con la contribución al programa mismo sectorial de protección civil. Nosotros todavía no tenemos una ley de gestión de riesgos, sigue siendo una ley de protección civil, a estudios de la OCDE, a la definición del potencial de población afectada para programas de atención a la población. Y bueno, vemos que esta información pues se está utilizando, ¿no? Básicamente para la delimitación de esto, para la generación de la política pública para mitigación y reducción del riesgo. Y bueno, finalmente quiero mencionar, y pues de esto se trata estos importantes foros, de la importancia de un lenguaje común, que es hacia donde queremos ir, ¿no? Los conceptos de reducción del riesgo son resultado de décadas de un diálogo global, ¿no? Y ya también se ha mencionado aquí por los que me han precedido. Y pues sí, efectivamente las palabras importan y los conceptos también importan, ¿no? Entonces vemos también que pues los desafíos principalmente, no necesariamente, ya también lo mencionaban quienes me precedieron, es contar con nuevas clasificaciones, pero sí reforzar estas, y pues también ayudarnos a nosotros, a los países, para contar con un marco común que nos permita concretar y medir estas acciones en la generación de estadísticas. Y bueno, para empezar la discusión es lo que yo quería compartir con ustedes, y pues aquí hasta este momento lo dejaría.
Thank you very much for that brilliant presentation. And certainly I think your final slide was so important in sort of saying that actually it's important that the concepts are measurable and that they are used across the board by everybody and understood in the same way. So thank you very much for that presentation. And I hope everybody found that really useful and interesting. I'm going to move very quickly on to our next speaker. It's Dr. Chadi Abdullah. Hopefully you are able to at least hear us and maybe even speak, Dr. Abdullah. So Dr. Abdullah is the chair of the Arab Science and Technology Advisory Group on Disaster Risk Reduction, or the Arab STAG, and president of the National Council for Scientific Research of Lebanon. And he is going to share with us his experience of using geospatial disaster data in the Lebanon. You have 7 minutes, Dr. Abdullah. I'm not sure if you're able to share your slides. If not, then
I'm sharing actually my slides now. Can you see it or not?
we can't see them just yet. It takes a few seconds for it to to show up on our screens. But do feel free to start. So we've got 7 minutes to get
Thank
through.
you so much. But just let me know if you are able to see, because I have a lot of animation. Actually, I'm intervening today on what we have done lately in Lebanon, especially during the war. But let me start saying that addressing the multidimensional crisis faced by the country in Lebanon, and specifically challenges on the importance of disaster-related statistics, it matters, especially when we are dealing with the climate change, natural hazard and multi-hazard assessment, social transformation, sustainable agriculture, resilient city, environmental suitability, and others. So, and also transforming education with the higher education and scientific research. Actually, we are working on the flood hazard and statistical related hazard in order to collect information related to different frequencies of the hazards of the risk information for the whole country on a village level. So we were able to. I'm not sure if you are seeing my slides or not.
Unfortunately, we can't see your slides at the moment. It may be because you're using, I think, the web page rather than the app.
I'm now. Can you see it?
Oh, there is something happening. Very exciting. Yeah, we can see them. Brilliant. Yeah, we can see the page on flood hazards in Lebanon.
So I was talking about the flood hazards, and of course, as my colleagues were stating before, we are able, through these information and the statistics that we are gathering at a level of maybe a very fine resolution, using the satellite imageries and also the AI and the machine and the deep learning. As you can see here, we are able to allocate the exposure, the vulnerability, and the risk for each and every basin in the country at a scale of 1 to 1,000. So each and every building, we are able to calculate all the information related. This is the bacteriological, also on the coastal area. So these are all the statistics coming back from 2000 and from 1983 on the whole coastal area. So all of these information enables the decision maker in order to take proper action. This is for the fire assessment. We have statistics on a daily basis for each and every fire that's taking place in the country. And this enable us, of course, and this is for the storms as well, but all of these enable us in order to properly revise the hazard mapping and also the risk mapping for different hazards and risk all over the country. But my intervention is not here. My also for the risk informed, as you can see here, this is the newest one statistically on the village, on each and every village in the country. We were able to build the risk informed for the 2024. My intervention actually is here. So during the war in Lebanon, we were able, like we had previous war, the Israeli war, it was in 2006. When we were revising what happened, we didn't have like proper information, one unique database. So we decided during the early war in October 2023 in order to gather all the information. This information were gathered through crowdsourcing, through our connection with different operational room, with the government, with the Lebanese army and others, and of course with the crowdsourcing. We were able to allocate and put the records and the statistics of the daily violations of the Israeli all over the country. This enabled us with the machine learning, as you can see here. So we were able to see all the bombs and all the missiles that has been targeted on each and every day all over the country, using the high-res satellite imageries. And as you can see here, this is part of the daily records, as you can see here, on a daily basis, with the different type of what do you call it, the offensive actions that has been taken by the Israeli. And I can show you here, like when you go to September, where the war ignited. Okay, I'm running it faster. So you can see here in September 2024, when it's really started offensively, till the end of the war and the ceasefire. So during the end of the till the end of the war, we were able to do all the statistics of all the offensive attacks in the country, as you can see here. This is before the ceasefire, and these numbers of offensive activity and violations after the war, after the ceasefire, because it's still like we still have violations and attacks after the ceasefire. And these are all the statistics. So these are the satellite imageries before. This is olive oil, the olive farms, as you see before and after. And we were able to allocate all the fire severity and the fire burned area in Lebanon. And these are we were able to allocate all the greenhouses that has been affected through, of course, AI and through the high-res satellite images all over the country, as you can see here. And these are all the statistics that have been damaged directly, indirectly. And we were able at the end, as you can see here, these are the housing and the building. This is one of the Ait al-Shab. This is one of the villages before the war. During the war, as you can see here, this is during the war. All the ones are red that has been damaged. The one in yellow, it's partially damaged. And this is after the ceasefire imagery. As you can see here, there are a lot of other houses that has been damaged after the ceasefire, which is allocated to 1/3 of what has been damaged before the ceasefire, yani within 2 years. Of course, these are all the statistics that has been gathered, and we were able to allocate how much of the rubble and the damage that has occurred in each and every village, all around 350 villages in the country. And this at the end led to what is called agricultural damage and needs. This is with the FAO. We were able to release the country, the war impact on in Lebanon according to the agricultural sector, and it was counted that we have $118 million as a damage, 586 is the loss, and then you have 263 million for the needs in the agricultural sector. We were also able to release some fact sheets regarding the solar panels that are used, that has been damaged and used for the during the war, and also the greenhouses. Also, it has led this statistic approach that we have done on a daily basis has led us to do the RDNA, the Rapid and Need Damage Assessment with the World Bank, that has been released and has encountered that Lebanon need $11 billion till the end of 2030 for the recovery. And it was allocated that we have a damage, the physical damage to the assets is around 6.8 million, and 7.8 billion is the economic losses. As you can see here in each and every sector, this is the housing sector. As you can see, and these are the losses which were count and with the USD. What are the immediate term that need on the immediate term, the short term, and the medium term according to the different categories? We were able to allocate these, and we are able because we don't have enough money for the recovery. There was a loan from the World Bank with 250 million. So we needed to take all the statistics of the damage and to build up a model. This model gave different scenario for the priority needs in the country. As you can see here, we took a model in order to put the priorities for the which village or which area should be prioritized in order to help in the assessment. This was done for the infrastructure and also for the agricultural sector. As you can see here, we were able to allocate the total damages, the total losses, and to prioritize these area accordingly. If we have donors, if we have people that are willing to help the country, so we put the list of the priority. I'm finalizing. This is also for the one of the projects with the World Bank. The needs for the greenhouses and the solar panels that are used for the irrigation. So we prioritized the area. We allocated the area that has been damaged and impacted during the war. To end up, we see that there is a big growth for the CNRS in the disaster-related statistics. Reliable statistics are not just numbers; they shape recovery, resilience, and policy. We continue to position ourselves as a scientific reference institution for disaster-related statistics in Lebanon and in the Arab region, and also enhancing the Lebanon's role in global network for disaster-related statistics, and also contributing to global resilience objectives and the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdullah, for your presentation. A very sobering presentation, and really underlying why disaster-related statistics are important. As you said, it's not just about understanding what's currently happening in the disaster, but it's about building that resilience and being able to understand how to build for the future and to build back better. So thank you very much, because I know you have dialed in from the Philippines especially, and we do appreciate having you here and sharing your perspective. Now we are going to move on to our final presentation. I want to introduce Ms. Diksha Muahodoa. Apologies for mispronouncing your name. She's a statistician at the Environment, Statistics and Climate Change Disaster Statistics Unit in Mauritius. Just a reminder that we have 7 minutes because we will need to wrap up on time. So if you could ask that you keep to time, please, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kanza, for your introduction. Are you seeing my slide right now?
We are, but you need to put them into presentation mode.
Okay, so I've put it in slideshow mode. You're not.
No, we're seeing in the PowerPoint mode at the moment. If you shared the slideshow mode, then we should be able to see them.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I'll try it once more.
That's fine.
Is it okay now?
It's still in PowerPoint mode. Your alternative is if you just zoom in on your slides and just make them a little bit bigger, we might be able to see them anyway.
Okay, so I'll just put it in the slide in the PowerPoint presentation and I'll zoom it. I think that will be better.
No problem.
It's
yeah. Just make it a little bit smaller, and then that should be fine, and then we should all be able to see them hopefully.
It's better?
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you very much first for inviting me to share the case of Mauritius with regards to disaster-related statistics. So we are very new in the production of disaster-related statistics because it has been since 2021 that the statistics unit was set up. So we are still in the, how do I say, baby phase or foundational phase of trying to really institutionalize the collection of disaster-related data. So first, let me just give a brief country background about Mauritius. So Mauritius is a very small island. It is a small island development state, and it's located in the Southwest Indian Ocean, approximately some 2,000 kilometers off the southeast coast of Africa. And we are made up of a couple of islands, actually, the main island being Mauritius. And we have other small islands like the Rodrigues, Sagalega, the Chagos archipelagos, etc. The total surface area is approximately 1,868 kilometers square. And the length of the coastline is approximately 322 kilometers. We have a population of around 1.2 million people, and the exclusive economic zone is around 2.3 million kilometers square. So the hazards which affect the island the most are cyclones and torrential rains. So one of the most deadly cyclones which hit us 2 years back was the Belal cyclone. I don't know if you heard it in the news. And from that, we had cascading hazards like flash floods. And you can see in the pictures, like hundreds of cars were submerged in the capital city of Port Louis. And the flash floods are really an occurrence of the rapid urbanization of the development in the cities, which is causing a disruption in the natural drainage system. So recently, our updated land drainage master plan identified 16 regions as high-risk flooding, and unfortunately, there have already been residential houses built there. So there was a very sort of a miscommunication about the risks which involved in these zones. And the next hazards, so the cascading hazards are the landslides. So again, we have several areas which have been spotted where these are very vulnerable spots where houses are affected. There is destruction of houses and infrastructure. And the other one is about the slow onset effect of the drought. So with climate change episodes, we have drought and dry spells, which are becoming more frequent. And it has been projected by the meteorological station that by 2050, there will be a 13% decline in the rainfall and a potential rise of temperature of up to 2.5 degrees by 2100. So we will be facing extreme heat days and more periods of droughts. And recently we have been declared as a water stress country, so it is very bad news for us in the future. And the other setback is the sea level rise. So the sea level rise, which is coupled with increased cyclonic activity, plus the sea swells. So this leads to temporary coastal flooding. And then we have an accelerated beach erosion and a loss to coastal infrastructure. And also there is a high probability that the tourism sector will be affected by 2050 because of the beach erosion and the loss in marine biodiversity, coral bleaching, and everything. With regards to epidemics, so it has been observed that following the bouts of torrential rains and flash floods, we have reported cases of dengue and also leptospirosis after heavy rainfall. So basically, it's the northern and the eastern parts of the island which were most affected. So coming to the center, which is the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Center. The center was established in August 2013 because if you would remember that in 2013, there was the very deadly flash flood in the capital city again, and there was loss of lives of 13 people in an underground tunnel. So they were trapped and they couldn't escape until they were drowned completely by the high sea level rise. So then it has been a wake-up call for the government of Mauritius, and it was then that the center was created. So the center is the primary coordinating agency for national disaster management in the Republic of Mauritius. And its approach is a multi-agency approach to risk management. That is, many agencies and organizations are involved. It is not only the center who is going to take the responsibility of all the activities. So for example, for early warning system, we have the meteorological station, which will give its inputs. And then we have the Mauritius Mobile Force. We have the Mauritius Police Force. We have the fire and rescue services. We have various other ministries responsible for the power sector, for energy supply. These all organizations and ministries come together, and it is the NDRMC which coordinate the roles and responsibilities and preparedness during the disaster. So as I said earlier, the NDRMC coordinates the implementation of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management policies, and also the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Strategic Framework and the plans. So very recently, in the year 2021, the NDRMC decided to establish a disaster statistics unit within the center itself, so that it can complete the Sendai framework monitor reporting. And for that, the NDRMC requested the assistance of Statistics Mauritius. So the disaster statistics unit basically comprised of a statistician and one statistical officer, who work on a part-time basis in the center. So the unit, as I said, it assists the center in the annual Sendai Framework Monitor reporting. So we collect disaster-related data from major stakeholders. We have questionnaires which have been designed, data collection templates, and once we send the questionnaires and templates to the stakeholders, we set a specific deadline and we do the monitoring and evaluation. So the data are then edited and compiled, and then we can generate indicators mainly related to targets A, B, C, and D of the Sendai framework. Also, the inputs of Statistics Mauritius comes with regards to the metadata. So the center has been able to obtain accurate metadata with respect to population, age distribution of the population, the number of households, average household size, GDP at current market prices, and exchange rate. The main sources of data remains the center itself. So the center has the National Emergency Operation Command, which is known as the NEOC. So once an alarm has been released by the meteorological station and the NDRMC, the NEOC is activated immediately. And from there onwards, the situational reports are generated on a 24-hour basis. So all the major forces which are on field facing the disaster during the response, like I said before, the Mauritius Police Force, Special Mobile Force, the Ministry of Health, the energy entities. So they all report back to the NEOC, and these information is being compiled in situational reports on a 24-hour basis. So we have information about the status of the energy, the communication, how the roads are doing, if ever there are disruptions in the road networks, etc. So we also get returns from the Food and Agricultural Research and Extension Institute. So this organization is part of the Ministry of Agro-Industry, and they provide us information on croplands, the amount of crops lost during the disaster, and also on livestock, how much of the livestock have been affected.
Sorry, can I ask you to wrap up soon, because we're going to lose the interpretation in a moment, please.
Okay, so I'm just moving to the next slide. So yeah, this is which I just explained how the NEOC works with all the major stakeholders providing information to the center. And then I move to the gaps and challenges in the situational report. So we do not yet have disaggregation by gender, age, disability, and poverty status. And when people are assisted by the SAMU, or the urgent medical assistance during the disaster, there is no really an attribution to which type of disaster. So we have no additional information on the type of illness or injury, and when has it happened, if it is related to what disaster event is it related. Also in the evacuation center, so the number of evacuees is used as a proxy to estimate the number of damaged households, which is a sub-indicator B3 and B4 of the Sendai framework. So this is also an area where we need to work more. We cannot estimate the economic loss of damaged critical infrastructure such as hospitals and schools, and also for electricity and water supply. And there is an incomplete coverage of loss and damage of productive assets, which remains really a big challenge for commercial buildings, small, medium enterprises, and also the informal sector. But there have been a few wins, like we have been able to do the reporting milestones, and we have been able to use this information for the reporting of the NDCs, BTRs, and SDGs also. So our way forward is just the ongoing sensitization of stakeholders for the need of disaster-related data. So we do regular meetings, trainings, and workshops to sensitize them. We are trying to strengthen our data sharing networks through the agencies. And also, we are trying to implement the disaster tracking system in our annual reporting. So that will be all for me. Thank you very much. I hope I've been quick and I finished on time.
It was an excellent presentation, and I'm so sorry I had to interrupt you, because I would quite happily have stayed listening to what you were saying, because there were so many practical things in there that I think many of us can take away with us. So thank you very much for that excellent presentation and for stepping in. We really appreciate you taking the time to share what's happening in Mauritius. So as I said right at the start, we have a hard stop in less than 60 seconds. So I need to just basically take this opportunity to thank every single one of our speakers from session 1 and session 2 today. We have really appreciated everyone's input. We unfortunately have run out of time to be able to have questions and answers, and I do apologize for that. But as I said at the start of the session, we did have a hard stop with the interpreters. On top of that, what we wanted to ensure is that actually everybody really heard what the speakers have to say. But over the next couple of days, hopefully you'll have the opportunity to continue to chat and to engage with one another. So I just wanted to briefly wrap up this session and to give you some of my key reflections. Firstly, it's about the Global Disaster Related Statistics Framework. We've learned that it's not developed in isolation. It brings together the key concepts and frameworks and the key terminologies. But what it also does is it recognises the overlapping needs of the multiple stakeholders, users and producers of disaster-related statistics. And again, plugging for the reminder, the consultation closes tomorrow. So please do get your feedback in. We are obviously taking it very seriously and want to make sure that it's incorporated into the final version. We've heard that disaster-related statistics and data really help the early warning systems. Early warnings for all is a key initiative, and also in terms of being able to determine the climate change processes, having that data is really important. And having a robust time series when it comes to disaster-related statistics really helps national disaster risk reduction plans. Excuse me, we heard a very sobering presentation that reminded us of the importance of geospatial data and the use of AI and how we can produce disaster risk reduction data, but also conflict assessments and rapid assessments of loss and damages as we're going through a conflict or through a disaster. And finally, words and concepts, they do matter. We've heard that it's so important, and all the risk reduction that we have been doing is a result of years of global dialogue and development, and we together as a community need to continue to reinforce this dialogue. So that's the summary from me. I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much. Apologies once again for the technical issues that everybody experienced. Hoping tomorrow things might work better. We will be starting with session 3 tomorrow, which is talking about advancing and coordinating disaster impact statistics. And unfortunately, you will have me again tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, depending on where you are. So I look forward to seeing you all online again tomorrow. Thank you so much and have a great day wherever you are.